intermediate. So let me just check to make sure we on. All right.
I re-
We
I realize that this lighting I have make my teeth look beyond white. So I gotta not smile so much.
um I'm not even sure. Yo, I mean, you should smile if you're gonna smile, man. Just you know what I
I mean,
mean?
I don't know how not to, so it is what it is.
I man, what's funny is every just about every picture when I was initially gonna do the flyer, you were not smiling. So is it the
Yeah,
rapper thing? Like you
it's
don't smile in pictures?
only if I'm. It's weird, dude. It's only I have one where I'm turned sideways and I'm actually smiling because I didn't know nobody was taking the picture. I don't really, believe it or not, I don't really like taking pictures
Mm,
unless they're candid.
okay.
So like if it's like a photo shoot thing, it's weird. Like I'm like the kid, when they used to take you to Sears and they have to be like, the bear, look over here. I'm like that. Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same. It's the same for me, man. Like as soon as, but it's something about when somebody says like, "All right, you know, photo shoot," and then
Yeah.
they put the camera on you, and you like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
'cause I don't, I mean, like I know it's there, so I want to. You're like, I gotta make the right thing, and then it's just like whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've actually had girlfriends and stuff be like, "You don't ever smile in the picture," and then I'll smile or something, and they'll be like, "See, you should smile more." I'm like, "Yo, hey, just catch me in the moment, then. Don't ask
Yeah,
me
you, it's
to."
got to be live. It's got to be live. Yo, shout out to my man Suge. Nice he joined. He is also a Miami Heat fan. This isn't Suge. This isn't Suge.
No, that's
Mr.
my buddy.
Suge.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my
Okay.
buddy.
Cool. I was
Yeah.
gonna say. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we what up, yo? We go way back. That's we met. We met. I've definitely known you longer, but we met not too long after that.
Word.
So
Word.
yeah.
Shout out to my sister and my homeboy P Low in the place to be. Thank y'all for joining. What's in the box live with my homeboy, man. I'm about to learn some lessons. Usually I do like the whole stat breakdown or whatever, but my man Op is a respected coach. You know what I mean?
I
A
do what I can.
basketball savant, if you will. So there's a lot of players that I don't pay attention to because I don't watch college basketball. That's one thing I do not do. So
Believe it or not, I have not in like 10 years.
in 10 years, really.
Just when the draft, like I'll watch little pockets, but when the
Mhm.
draft starts, like I'm on YouTube because I'm trying to figure out who we gonna pick.
I'm like, I never. So here's my thing. I never really, and we talked about this before a little bit before the show. We'll get into it more when we start getting into the players, but I just don't know how these games translate, especially when players are weirdly sized. You know what I'm saying?
I see
Like
what you're saying. Yeah.
Zion Williamson, I was like, all right, but the height though, like I couldn't, I had to see it translate onto the court because sometimes the size just doesn't make sense for a lot of these
I feel
players.
you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's hard for me to watch. I know you're going to dominate the accountants that you're playing against in college,
Right.
but even a person like PJ Tucker is going to bully the average rookie.
Right. 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 Right.
So no diss to PJ Tucker. I'm just saying like a
No, it's like Charles
non-player
Oakley,
you're looking.
same thing. Like he was gonna bully anybody like that it did matter. But you know what I will say now from coaching high school and coaching rec league and so on and so forth, as far as that whole translation thing goes, I've
Yeah,
learned that basically and it's not a science, but like for instance, if somebody you do remember Adam Morrison?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So great shooter in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did not translate into the league, right? Not quick enough. Uh he didn't have enough just raw talent to take that and translate it into grown men up in his face, right?
Yep.
But everyone was like, oh, he's averaging like 25 points. Like points are hard to determine if they're going to translate
I
because it's
agree.
points.
That's
It's
why the G
hard.
League is
Like,
so hard because dudes will
game is
put up
different.
60. Yeah.
They play in a zone half the time, more ball
Mm-hmm.
movement. You don't have one player taking 20 to 30 shots. Like there's no yeah, every college team has that one go-to guy, but for the most part, all them systems are set up to who's open. Like
Yeah.
there's not really so you look at the other things, but like rebounds,
Yep. I'm with you.
hustle.
Yep.
Their defense can translate because you just look at how they stand in front of the person. Um, and then where they getting their shots. Like if a dude shoots a lot of mid range, that might actually translate to the league.
Word.
Um,
I agree.
just just having a three ball though and shooting deep, is hit or miss.
It is.
Um,
It is. It is.
so it's like,
I cut points in half. That's normally what I do. Like
yeah, yeah.
if a player's scoring 20 points in college, I'm like, all right, that might translate to 8 to 10 in the league. What
You
up, Sawyer?
almost got to go
What up, T?
thirds.
What up,
You
Auntie?
almost got to break it down to thirds almost, not
True.
even halves. It
True.
almost got to be like if he's getting 30, he's probably only going to get 9. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
30 is rough to translate though.
yeah,
Trey Young would be my kind of my poster boy for trying to translate 30-point scorers into
right.
lower scorers. But I think from the guard position, I'll put it that way. Because
Mm,
guards have enough options with the ball to make their own decisions. So you may not get a good 30 or good 20, but you
right.
can put up 20. Now, from that paint position, if somebody putting up 20, 30 a night in college or in I'm like,
Because
like I
it
said,
could be, you got to see where it's coming from. If
yeah,
that dude's putting up that and it's from rebounds, now
right.
you got to think, okay, is his body going to be able to bang with the bodies in the NBA to get those rebounds, right?
Yes.
How's he
Yes.
getting those rebounds? That's why a lot of you notice a lot of them big successful white dudes in college
Yeah.
don't transfer to the NBA.
No.
Not
No.
not not for stat. They usually end up being like the Myers Leonards.
Right.
You know what
Well,
I
the
mean?
fundamental here's the crazy thing about that. Fundamentals in college, right?
Mm,
Look at Jaleel Okafor. Being
right.
fundamentally sound in college without supreme athleticism works. But in the
Yeah.
NBA, an athlete will break your fundamentalism like that. Like it's not
Especially now. And
especially now.
especially
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny you say that because and please, if there's any Spurs fans watching, relax. Just relax. But but I have wondered sometimes watching how Tim Duncan plays if you take away the development of that 15-foot jump shot he developed,
Mhm.
would he been as effective in this up and down
He wouldn't have.
race that we got in now? I don't know if he would. I don't know if that would have translated great. You know, um, I
I don't think
almost
so.
think I almost think, and this is not a fan thing, but I almost think that Chris Bosh would translate better than he would. And that's not oh, he's better and he's better, but just the way that he changed his game to fit, I don't know if Tim would have
Well,
been this Tim.
I am not a person. I don't know. I don't do the top 10 list or whatever, but I don't believe where they always slot Tim Duncan like above Kobe and Shaq, and occasionally
Really?
they'll even slot him like
I
above
haven't seen
Bird.
that one.
That's
Oh,
the
okay.
most recent one, and I don't think he's that high. I mean he's definitely one of the top 15 players in the league,
Yeah.
especially in the most recent years. But they always put him a lot higher than he should, and I don't buy it. But I will say this: he probably would have had a 3-point shot
Yeah,
if
yeah.
he, you know what I'm saying, like he probably would have adjusted and had a 3-point
He
shot
would have,
because
yeah.
he was that good of a player
And he got
to
a good
where
touch. He
yeah
has a great touch. But as we know him,
yeah
it
yeah
wouldn't. I don't think it would have worked.
yeah
But yeah. And that once again, to me, I've gotten to this argument in barbershops before. When you start breaking down just the power forward list, not the whole league,
sure
I I would argue 1, 2, whichever way you want to put them, one or two, as far as power forwards that ever play. But so yeah. But
okay
anyway,
no all good who do you have it who's two before we move on one two either one or two who would be the top two then Duncan and
um, as much as I hated him, Karl Malone.
probably Carmelo. I yeah some people would have to now I don't know where Bill Russell played. Did Bill Russell
And
play the
that's see
center or
those
power forward position?
that's where things start getting funky. And once again, like you, I honestly, you did it a lot sooner than me. I just recently, I think in the last 2 years, stopped having the top anything conversation.
I refuse.
Um,
I refuse.
because at first it was fun to argue or just debate it, but then it started getting real weird because it came down to, I think I put a post on my Facebook the other day where I was like, basically people were like, I don't like his shoes. And all of a sudden it's this
Thank you.
personal thing. And like,
Thank
and
you.
you know me, I was never, rest in peace, but I was never a big Kobe fan.
Right.
But you would have never heard me say Kobe sucks
Right.
ever.
Right.
Like ever.
Yeah.
So, but I know people that'll be like, oh, LeBron sucks or Kobe sucks. And I'm like, you just don't like them. Like that's
Yeah.
different.
That this is my James Harden issue. But look, I wanted for those who join, thank you guys very much. This is what's in the box track. If you are unfamiliar with this, what I have been doing prior to this show is post game reviews for the Lakers only. I break down the stats and information that I feel was relevant to the game. I do not do the whole diss a player, talk bad about a player thing. You get enough of that on ESPN. You can have fun with that. Um, I really just like to get into what's happening on the floor and why it's happening. Now I started doing this a little before the Lakers were winning, so I think I did it the year before. So I didn't just do it because the Lakers were on their way to being successful. Fortunately, winning the championship last season, but I thought that a lot of the conversation started to flow just very weird when you started watching ESPN and CBS. I just thought they started like losing the conversation about basketball. And if you're a basketball fan, you can look at a player that may not be the most elite player, let's say an Avery Bradley, and be like, yo, that dude is very valuable on the floor and the reasons why he's valuable. So um now that's the kind of initial thing. So this is what's in the box track live, and this is my homeboy, my fam, all the way from San Diego. Now I don't know the trail though. Hawaii, Baltimore, San Diego, Baltimore,
No,
Hawaii.
okay. So I'm originally from Baltimore,
Okay.
and then I lived in Virginia,
Okay.
and then I lived in Oceanside, and then I lived in Florida, and then I went to Hawaii, and now I came back to San Diego.
Military family, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
So we actually have a lot in common. He's a very dope MC. I'd like to think that I'm one as well.
Oh
If
man,
you
yeah.
like to
For sure.
cop his music, he has a new record out called Dap Days. This is a follow up to Punching Water, which was super dope. I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all where to get it. If you want to purchase the music, just check it out. It's down there. Purchase Opoetik's music at opoetic.bandcamp.com. I'm gonna leave that scrolling for y'all to read. So, without further ado, man, let's get into some basketball. So we're gonna
Yes,
go
sir.
through these teams and try to figure out, some of them are skippable, just flat
Yeah.
out. Some of them are just flat out skippable. So let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. We're just gonna go in alphabetical order and see what's
All
happening
right.
for those of
Yeah,
y'all.
Atlanta is interesting.
Yeah,
Atlanta is very interesting. I don't know where to even place them in the mix, but I
right.
know they what they did was they added some veterans to their young core, and
Yes.
that's always a good thing when you can do that mix. Matter of fact, that's basically what Miami did.
Correct.
Um, so with if they brought in Rondo, right,
They brought in
and
Rondo. They brought
so
in
he's
Solomon Hill. Oh no.
yeah, Um, leave Solomon alone, man. Leave him alone, man.
That's my guy,
Uh,
man.
but yeah, Solomon Hill. But they already had the young power forward, John Collins.
Yeah.
I'm like
Yep.
looking at it right now. They had DeAndre Hunter, I think, from last year's draft, so we don't know what he's going to be yet.
Yep.
Um, Gallinari is like he could be and he can't be. It just depends on if
He's
he's going to
not
be
he's
broke.
not valuable when it's crunch time. And that is the key. OKC actually might have won that series last year if Danilo Gallinari in the last couple games was
Uh,
anything different. Like he's never been worth anything when it's real. And it's
huh,
sad because he's got all of the actual, like, I hate watching him play because he has everything you need as an offensive player in the NBA to be like
right,
20 a
right.
night, no matter what, guaranteed all day. But the dude will start missing free throws in crunch time. The dude will just he'll shoot 25% from three. I'm not a big fan of it. Question though. Now you have Trey over there, right?
Yeah.
And Trey was running point guard pretty well, in my opinion. I'm
Yeah.
imagining Rondo comes off the bench,
Yes,
but
sir.
they picked up Chris Dunn. I think the Bogdanovich pick is perfect. That's a brilliant pick. But
Yeah.
they also brought in Chris Dunn. It seems like they're backing up this point guard position. I don't know about that, man. Like I feel like one, maybe not both.
You know what I think's happening? I mean, and I should just a guess. I was talking to a guy at work, and I was like, you know how the NFL's been really interesting with the COVID situation,
Yeah,
and I'm curious that if teams are going to be a little heavier in certain spots for out of fear that, like, you know, with the NFL, you got every 7 days you play a game.
yeah, yeah,
With NBA, it's like every other day, sometimes every day, sometimes. So if a dude gets diagnosed with COVID like on a Monday and they're
yeah,
on a road trip,
yeah.
that's 14 days.
Yep,
That's
yep.
potentially at least 12 to 8 games.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Especially with the
so,
accelerated schedule now. Yep,
right. So I'm assuming that that's one of those picks. Plus, Dunn also has been known to play a little too.
yep.
And as I'm looking at this roster, I don't really see them with a lot of two guards.
That was my question. I don't think they got almost any depth at the two. I
Yeah,
didn't
so I
see any
think
moves.
I don't know who Skylar Mays is or Brandon Goodwin. I don't know if they're, this says guards, so I don't know if they're legit two guards, but it looks like they're probably young and Dunn
Bra-
has some experience. So I'm assuming that that's what that was about.
Fair enough. Uh, Skylar Mays was the 50th overall pick this year.
Mm,
I don't see normally a 50th pick is not producing his first year,
no.
if at all ever, really, to be honest. And then they got the Onyeka at sixth, so they kind of bulked up a little bit. I my favorite pick here is the Bogdanovich pick, though. I thought that was a real good pickup.
Yo, Milwaukee messed that up.
Blew it, blew it, blew it entirely, yo, blew
But
it.
yeah, I think they're gonna be solid. I think Rondo gives them that experience they don't have.
Yeah,
Trey Young, like you said, he's been playing out of his mind. And they also, not a great player, but they also brought in Tony Snell.
that's a good pickup.
Um, and he's a solid piece. He does a lot of things, but nothing great, but he does everything that's decent to
Sure,
good.
sure.
And they still have the young dude Cam Reddish, who was supposed to be the top dude coming out of that class with I believe that was with wasn't that with Zion?
Yep.
Like Cam coming into college was the dude, and I think he got in some trouble, and so you know he's either gonna get over that or he's gonna become Michael Beasley again, and you know how I feel about that.
Man, sometimes it's just kind of hard to, yeah. Um, so I'm gonna, at the end of this, I'm just gonna ask you straight up, playoffs or not. So after we discuss each team,
Okay,
um, so that's where we are right now. Atlanta
let's see.
Hawks, playoffs or not.
Ooh, who's out there? Like who's the bottom? Who was the bottom of the East last year?
So last year, Washington didn't make it, but the bottom playing was Washington. I gotta look it up because it just didn't matter to me at all.
I
Uh,
feel you. Pacers.
yeah, mid bottom, right?
Well, they played Miami in the first round. I think Miami was fifth seed,
Okay,
so they were the
so yeah, they had
sixth.
to be. No, first round. That would be fourth
Yeah,
and fifth, wouldn't it?
yeah. So they were fourth.
They were fourth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Orlando was eighth or seventh or eighth or one of those. Um, just
without knowing what Orlando, I don't know what Orlando looks like off the top of my head. I'm gonna say they don't make it. I'm gonna say they're gonna be right on the cusp and they're in the draft again.
okay. All right. Cool.
Um,
I think it's
yeah.
good. Also good to have Rondo around Trey Young. I think that should
Oh,
help
for
them quite
sure.
a bit.
He's gonna make him much smarter.
Yeah. Celtics didn't do anything too major outside of picking up Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague. They did get Aaron Nesmith at 14th, and we were talking before the show about how that 12 through
Yeah.
12 through
Yeah.
18th spot in the draft seems to always find some random superstar. I don't think this is gonna be it, but yeah, there's not
That's,
much
you
to
know
talk
what?
about here, in my opinion.
This draft, just speaking of the draft, is going to be one of those ones that I don't know if we're gonna know. what it is for another 2-3 years.
Okay, so these aren't immediate impact players to you.
I think they'll have some sort of impact depending on where they fell. For instance, like Ball, right?
Right.
Like he fell in a situation where he got to play.
He has to play.
Um, but some of these dudes fell in positions where we may not know who they are for at least another 2 years.
Sure.
And then we don't even know who the last draft yet because their cut season was cut short. A lot of them. Uh,
Yeah.
so there's that.
Although, yeah, well, I give a player how many years do you give a player to really mean something? I give every player at least 4 years.
4. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with 4. I don't start like, oh, he's bust and I learned something about that word bust before we move on. I always bring up Christian Laettner, right? That's when
Mhm.
people talk about a bust. I used to. And I
Right.
went one day and I checked his stats. And I realized that as basketball fans specifically, people tend to think we only think about the high. We
Mhm.
we we always compare to the highest of the high. Like, so if a dude like Christian Laettner, I think I saw his average was like he was like 10, 8, and 2 or something, right?
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
above an average NBA career for the most part.
Yep.
Um, we start comparing them to like Kobe and LeBron and all these dudes, and we're like, oh, if they didn't average, and we're like, they sucked.
Yeah.
And you'd be
Yeah.
like, no, they didn't. Somebody got to be a role player.
Yeah. 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 I
Like,
well, I kind of tier it like this. A top 10 draft pick should achieve 3 contracts in the NBA, right? They're for rookie contract, some form of
is that
extension,
barring injury? That's barring injury,
barring
obviously, right?
injury, barring
Okay.
injury, and usually including injury because the prospect of them returning to some form of glory might get them
Something,
third
yeah.
contract. 10 through, let's go 10 through 20. 10 through 18, probably 2 contracts at the worst, right? You might get a second run with somebody if you got a chance to play, depending upon where you landed. Everybody after that is normally expected to last 1 contract in the league. At 20 and beyond, I'd say, yo, maybe 1 contract. Shout out to Shug. Thank you, Shug. You're right. It was Orlando. But that's how I kind of gauge it. Now, where you fall kind of has a lot to do with where you go. You know what I mean? If
Yeah,
you like,
yeah,
you
that's
know what I'm
big.
saying? So if you go to Atlanta, for example, you Trae Young, you go to Atlanta where you don't have to sit behind anybody, then
Nope.
boom, you get to fire off.
Right.
You go to the Lakers,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, and you have to sit behind whoever's there, and there's this whole
Yeah.
hierarchy, and Magic Johnson's breathing down your neck, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it might be
It's
a
a
bit of a
different,
difference.
whole completely different beast.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I agree. But yeah, you said Boston.
Boston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't
This
do
one
much.
is
Like you said, they
untapped.
didn't do much.
Yeah.
I think Boston messed up, honestly. Uh,
How so?
Not this year, but they're they're gonna face. Hopefully, they don't. But when they brought in Kyrie Irving and Hayward,
Mm-hmm.
with the rising of Brown and um, Tatum
Mm-hmm.
and the guard they lost to Charlotte, what was his name?
Rozier.
Rozier, and they had Crowder and they had Smart, and they took LeBron and them to 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
That should have told Danny Ainge, you know what? I don't, I'm done with this other stuff. Like, these dudes got something. We got to keep this going.
We need role
That
players.
next year, when he tried to insert Kyrie and insert Hayward as he was getting off his injury, it became problematic
Sure.
because we just watched these young boys push the base of the gatekeeper of the East to 7 games.
Yes.
And now you want them to lose at least 5, maybe 10 minutes to 2 guys who weren't even, and they're ball dominant dudes. And
Yep.
so I think they gave up a lot. They gave up Avery Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Crowder.
Yep.
They ended up losing Rozier.
Yep.
They they lost like Hayward. I mean, what's the name ended up leaving? They lost someone else, and then
Well,
they
Horford.
brought in
Horford ended up gone.
Crawford ended up leaving. So
Yeah.
all of them dudes that put them in that position, they
Yeah.
let go.
Yeah.
Now look at it. Now, yeah, okay, fine. They finally got back, but they lost to a team who I have no problem saying they were more talented than.
Yeah. By far.
From top to bottom, they were more talented than Miami, and I think that caused this problem. And I don't know if I'm sure they can get back, but now they got to face a KD and Kyrie Nets.
Right. Which even if they're not their very best, they still are.
They're a
Even
problem,
if that doesn't work out the way that you would work it out on paper, it's
right?
still better than just about anything else you'll face. Also,
Yep,
Gordon Hayward was their biggest mistake, and we'll get into Gordon Hayward when we get down the line.
for
But
sure.
Kemba Walker wasn't the Kemba Walker they expected last season
No,
at
mm-mm.
all. But part of the reason is because they're not playing the type of offense where Kemba Walker can just kind of get flexy and just
Right?
get busy. I mean, it's a much more structured offense, and I don't think that's a
Yes.
bad thing overall. But I think that maybe looking for a serviceable guard and then spending your money more at the center position would have been a
Yeah.
better idea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree.
Because you had all the other spots, and I think Marcus Smart as a six man or starter, whatever, is the jewel for that squad. He's the
Yeah.
utility
Yeah.
guy. So I think they don't have a big man, and I think it showed last season.
Oh yeah.
Bam just ran all through them like they wasn't even on the court. You know
Ty,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
that dude, what's his name, Tice or however you say it, he wasn't
Yeah.
the one. And now they're bringing in Tristan, and Tristan, I think his heyday is done.
Yep.
Um, so I will see. I mean, they got to now, like I said, they got to go up against a retooled Milwaukee team. They got
Yeah.
to go against this new Nets team that none of us know what they're going to look like.
Yep.
Um, Toronto is still Toronto. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy, but they're still Toronto. They're still a tough team.
Yep.
Miami's still there. The 76ers are retooled. So it's Boston kind of had a window, and I
Yep.
think they might have missed it. And we'll see.
We will see. Shout out to Poet Unknown. Hey, Flacco Dog in place. Flacco Dog's prediction, by the way. We going in alphabetical order, so I don't think we're gonna get to them anytime soon, Flacco. But his prediction was that the Jazz were gonna go undefeated next season. That was his prediction in
Whoa. I like the Jazz. Hey, I mean, I like them as a team. I've never, oh, man. Well, I'll wait till we get to the Jazz, but
all
I
right,
have this weird love hate thing with them. Actually, it's
all
more
right.
hate, but yeah,
Boston playoffs or no?
playoffs, yeah, for sure.
Guaranteed. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Brooklyn Nets. I mean, we can read off the other names. I mean, Jeff Green is a name that happened, but either way, we know it's real with Brooklyn. I mean,
yeah.
you got
You know,
Katie and Kyrie.
my only thing about Brooklyn is I watched a little bit of their preseason highlights the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw completely two different teams. It was almost like the team that they had last year with Dinwiddie and all of them just playing by themselves. And then I
Yeah,
saw the KD Kyrie team.
yeah.
And my question is when they hit a wall, when they lose 2 games, 3 games, and how's that going to play with the two big? Are they going to start pointing fingers at the other guys? Are they going to have a situation like the Clippers? That's my question. That's
I'm
what I
gonna
want to
I'm
see.
I'm gonna cut through what you're saying right now because you're being nice. How's Kyrie gonna act this season? That's really the question. You know what I'm saying? Because you're being nice. You know what I mean? We already know it because how Kyrie acts strongly affects how KD acts. Let me pause for a minute. Shout out to my man Chims, Philly fan. I see you. Op is not a Lakers fan. Op is a Heat fan. So this is not a LA Love only show. Matter of fact, this is about as balanced as it gets right now. So we got my man Flacco in the building, who is a Jazz fan. We got my man Suge Nice in the place, who's a Heat fan. This is about as balanced as you're gonna get. Uh, and me and Op are keeping it relatively peaceful. Normally we might have some, we might go back and forth a little bit, but we actually are keeping it relatively peaceful right now.
We
So
I think we found the common ground over the years.
over the
I,
years, yes,
I think you
definitely.
can find some posts from a couple years ago on Facebook where we was like, man, now it's just like little jokes, like when with the Gasol brothers. You know what I'm saying? That's always a good one.
Whatever, man. Can't stand. All right, so so my point here is, um, KD obviously responds emotionally to how people talk on his squad.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just there's no two ways about it. Let me show the people what the draft board for or what Brooklyn looks like. I mean, again, some of these names are really not, they don't really matter. Bruce Brown. Uh I actually Shamit is a hell of a pickup for that Brooklyn team.
Oh, I forgot about him. That surprised me. I'm surprised that they let him like slip,
I
and
would not have done that.
I'm like, okay. And he went there, and I think that that's the dude. That could be their third dude.
Yeah, yeah,
That could
yeah.
be their like the guy they're gonna need to win those games.
Yes. I
Um,
agree.
him or Levert, because I like Karis Levert.
Yeah, yeah. I like Harris Levert quite a bit. So yeah, I'm that's the thing to watch because Kyrie, Kyrie lets off like he whether it's the smartest thing in the world. Sometimes it's so crazy because it's like it'll be the most smart dumb thing a person can ever say. Like I'll think about it later and be like, you know what, that actually wasn't that stupid,
Right.
and then everything else is like completely stupid. Like what are you talking
Right.
about right now? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So Brooklyn Nets playoffs or not? Matter of fact, not just playoffs or not. Where do you think they land in the East?
I think they're gonna be in the top three.
Top three,
Yeah.
straight up. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I rush past Brooklyn because I want to get to Charlotte.
Hmm.
Not
All
particularly
right.
for LaMelo Ball. I can wrap my opinion of LaMelo Ball's opportunities in the league very simply. He hasn't developed the NBA body yet at all, and he looks really small for the NBA right now. He looks smaller than Ingram did coming in to me, and
Really?
that's pretty
See, because
because
Ingram, maybe I got to see him again. I feel like he was probably about the same because Ingram was frail. Ingram. So three, I would say him, KD, and Ingram are three of the most frailest 6'5" and up dudes I've ever seen come into the league. Um, and be basically somewhat ready.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, body wise, their frames, they got Reggie Miller bodies.
They
Like,
do, they do. But I thought Ingram had like more muscle tone coming in. Like he was a skinny, muscular dude, not strong
I mean,
muscular. Just
he got his push
they
ups
had to
in.
build muscle. Yeah.
He did his
Yeah,
pull ups
he's arms breaking. I see a couple shout outs. Marcus Gasol being a big pickup for the Lakers. I'll talk
for
about that. You're
sure.
probably not gonna like my opinion entirely, but I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah, which is funny because I actually have the opinion that Trek has about it. He should probably have compared to my opinion about it, seeing that's his team. So it's kind of a weird thing.
It's
But
gonna be definitely different. And also Flacco said, Kyrie 40 points, 1 assist per game. I'm gonna give Kyrie a little more credit than that. Kyrie's a pretty good assist dude, and with Durant on his side, it should be on point. Plus, with that injury, somebody mentioned earlier, I'm not gonna take credit for this. Not earlier in our show, but just earlier online. Uh, KD's drive to the basket is gonna be limited. No matter what, no matter how you cut or slice it, it's not gonna
yeah,
be horrible, but it's definitely going to be limited. So they're going to need Kyrie to do quite a bit, and then we'll get into Ingram as we scroll down. So that's just a kind of a quick opinion of Ball. My conversation, I do like the Bismack Biyombo pickup. I think either whether he's a backup or I don't know about a starter, but I do like Bismack Biyombo as just a utility, not a utility, but just a kind of big body pickup. Why are we still paying Gordon Hayward money?
yeah. See, um, I mean, first of all, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go back to when he first went. Let's do the timeline. So he was in Utah. He had a good run, right?
Yes.
Uh, there's guys in the league sometimes. Honestly, I'm gonna put Hayward in the same kind of space as Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Kevin Love was on Minnesota, and everybody was looking at his numbers, but then realized that he didn't have really nobody on that team that could
Yeah.
carry the weight. Rubio was a horrible shooter.
Yes.
And I couldn't even tell you the rest of that roster, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So,
Flacco could though.
and if you said some names, I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, Minnesota, I got you. I probably know, but just off the top of my head. So,
Yeah.
Kevin Love, what you got out of that is he's a great offensive rebounder, but he also scored points. So, and he could shoot the ball, but he was the one getting all the shots.
Yeah.
Then he goes to Cleveland. Some people blamed it on LeBron and blamed it on Kyrie, but after watching them games, no, and him finally coming into terms and saying like, "Hey, I emotionally checked out."
Yeah.
He said that himself, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, so I think he was a product of being on a team where he had to do all the work. So his
Expectation. Yeah.
numbers showed it. Hayward, same thing. He's on Favors was on that Utah team.
Correct.
Um, did he play with Deron Williams?
No, I don't. Maybe first year, but I think Darren Williams was gone after that.
Darren Williams. So he was the person, right? And he hit. Oh, I think we saw his ceiling. So then he goes to Boston because his coach from college wanted him. That's pretty obvious.
Okay.
I also, in my own opinion, I think that Boston is, and I think Ainge was part of that, is always looking for the
Great White
new
Hope.
bird. Yep.
The Great White Hope player. Yeah.
And he was next. We had a few of them. You had Keith Van Horn back in the day.
Correct.
Um,
Shout out to Keith Van Horn.
Morrison, when he came into the league, everybody was like, "Oh, here we go,"
The
and it
next
was like,
bird. Yeah.
and it kept going, it kept going, it kept going. So Hayward was the next one, and so Boston was like, we can get him," and they got him. Then he snapped his leg, which was horrible, and he came back, and these young dudes had taken his spot basically, and so now here he is. And
Yeah. Said Mike
so I can
Doliak.
only explain what you said.
Flacco said Mike Doliak.
Right.
Good
And
grief.
I can only explain up to that point. Now, Mike is Mike. He just has made some of the worst basketball decisions, which is brings me to this.
All right.
There are certain players that can coach and GM
Mm-hmm.
due to their position when they played in the league. Avery Johnson, great coach.
Yeah.
What was his? He wasn't a star. He was just a point guard who he played the game.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Bird might be the exception to that thing because Magic lost his mind.
Entirely as a coach and as a president. Yes. Agreed.
Mike has obviously shown
Sorry,
that he's
sorry, Laker
not.
fans. I love y'all, but no, 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 no. Don't get me started. I love Magic Johnson. He's my favorite player of all times. He's the reason why I watch basketball, and he was awful as a coach, and he was not that great as a president. And a lot of those moves were inevitable moves. I'm sorry. You just gonna have to take this and accept this. It is what it is. Magic
Phil.
is still the guy. He's still the guy. He's still the man. But no, I'm not doing this. All right. And I'm not doing it. If you want to do it in the chat, I'm not doing it either. Like, all right. That's my dude. Magic's my
that's
dude.
that's y'all's own fan right there. I'm out of that one. But just like I used to say, I don't think Mike would have ever been a good coach. I don't think Kobe would have been a good coach. I think that their competitive nature would have made them better as consultants than actual coach.
Yeah.
So Mike is up here trying to make these decisions based on he sees potential, but I think he thinks, oh, if they're going to work as hard as I did, so therefore this potential is going to become massive. And it's like, nah, bro.
The belief that this is a problem I think Kobe would have had if he ever became a coach or some form of team owner or whatever. Shout out to Norm Rockwell in the house. What up, though, man?
What up, Norm?
What's going on? The idea that people are going to be as maniacal about the game as you were, it's just rare. If you can think and consider that you were rare when you were playing, right? If Kobe and rest in peace, if Mike, Magic have to remember that you were rare. So where are you thinking you're gonna find this like roster of 9+ players that are all gonna be maniacal like you were? It's not gonna happen. You have to weight them to the average player,
They come along like every however many years, and it's like 2 of them, and then you don't see another one for a long time, and then there's like 2 of them. So you just gotta. I think that's the problem. Is I think that they have this thing, and so with Mike, I think it's just like he sees something and he thinks, oh, I could get this out of him, and it's like, no, Mike. There's a reason why people pass, but I also heard that actually Atlanta had offered him more money and he turned it down.
Hmm. Well, I think he probably thought that they had a better chance of maybe making something work. And Charlotte has made it work before. I mean, let's be honest. Like it's never produced the ultimate result, but Charlotte has made it work a lot more than Atlanta has over the last, what you want to say, like 15 years, 10 years, maybe.
Okay, hold on. Let's reflect on that for a second, because I'm thinking, okay, so you talking about last 15 years?
Okay, how far back to make a fair argument? Should we go 10
Because
just to make a fair
because I
argument?
don't has Charlotte been like, I mean, where we're really saying, oh, they're really competitive. Were they even that when Kobe was drafted?
Oh no, 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 no.
So I'm saying
Oh,
I'm
but they
thinking the
they
last.
they're coming off of this. So Charlotte is coming off of this lore, right? The Charlotte Hornets team is a lore. You had Larry Johnson at one point. Am I tripping? I mean,
This
it was
is,
right. So
yeah, it was Larry and Zoe, Kendall Gill,
yeah,
Percy Hawkins,
yeah,
that squad.
yeah. So this is old, but they keep
That's the
coming off of this
90s.
lore. So
Yeah,
they've had these times. I think what Nicholas Batum was on that team a couple of years ago. Am I right about that?
yeah, he got paid and then he wasn't
Well,
anything
he got
close.
injured. But
Yeah,
they keep putting these teams together, and it's not that these teams end up bad. It's like that pitfalls keep happening, like these weird injuries, these weird bugs. Whereas Atlanta has just kind of put together a bunch of actually just unsuccessful teams. Like it hasn't been an injury
yeah.
bug, at least that I can remember. It's been just kind
Well,
of highly unsuccessful.
all right, I'm gonna say this though. Honestly, I think Atlanta though, because remember, even though they were definitely not going to win championship, there were about 5 years where they had Horford and Millsap, and they were
Mhm.
way more competitive than Charlotte.
That's true. That's very true.
Um, and so I
Without injury.
I think they've kind of been on the same road, just at different times. And I also forget that there was a point where there was no Charlotte Hornets.
Right. Right.
They were in New Orleans,
Yeah.
and then so that was that whole
Or
thing.
the
So like
Bobcats thing. Yeah.
in the Bob, yeah. So it's kind of a it's one of
Yeah.
them
It's
weird
weird.
franchises, man.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
weird.
really know how to explain them, but we're probably spending too much time talking about the Charlotte Hornets.
True,
Oh,
and yeah, but it's fine because we're gonna skip over the next two for the most part. Chicago Bull. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Charlotte Hornets playoffs or no?
nah.
Nah. All right.
Uh,
Um, Chicago Bulls. I mean, hopefully Kobe White turns out to be everything that he looks like he'll be.
and they have
Which
that
is
power forward from like a year ago. I forget his name.
the white dude.
No, well, you have that. They got Laurie Marketing.
Yeah,
Um,
marketing is good. He's been injured though.
um, they got the other dude. I forget his name. He was in the draft with not with Zion. I think before that. Where is it? Where is he at? Let me see.
They also
Um,
have the slam dunk champion dude, right? He's still over there, right?
they took Justin Jackson, Laurie Marketing. I think his name's well. They drafted Patrick Williams, which I don't know much about him. They still got Zach Levine,
Zach Levine. That's what I meant. Yep.
uh, and
Marketing is
Otto
good.
Porter
I
Jr.,
like
who was
Otto
one
Porter
of
Jr. Yeah.
those. Yeah,
Well,
he
he's
got
serviceable. They got Thaddeus Young over there too. I think Thaddeus Young is a good serviceable
yeah.
player, role player.
Chicago. You know what? Like I'm gonna say this and be done with Chicago. Chicago is still under the Jerry Krause curse. Period. And
Period.
I, I'll go one step further. I'm not just gonna put it on Krause because after watching that documentary, as much as Krause was a jerk,
Hmm.
that owner said something in that documentary that literally let you know that he allowed Krause to be the devil for that situation. But in the background, he was co-signing all of his decisions with no fight.
Right.
So, which is a problem you see a lot where you start hearing, oh, the player did this and the player did that and the coach did this. And we never hear the conversation of the dude above the dude above the dude.
Yeah.
And we, as people, everybody goes, "Oh, these players are so da da da." And it's like
Yeah.
you don't know when he walked in that office what that owner said to him, which
Yeah.
we learned with the Clippers
Yeah.
that you got an owner that was
That was tripping.
so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, moving on.
Moving on from them. I'm not even gonna do Cleveland. Period. Uh,
Yeah, I do like the rookie that they drafted though.
you like Isaac Okoro?
Yeah, from what
Okay.
I saw, I like his work. I don't know if he's going to be like that dude, but I like his work ethic a lot.
Um, yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, I mean the pickup of JaVale McGee, the draft pick is cool.
He won't even finish the season with them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. JaVale McGee's probably yeah. I just it was unfortunate. I saw it. It's like I watched him get old last year. Like we watched it happen,
Hey,
and
but I
it's
will
crazy.
say
I
with
like him
him though,
though.
man, for a dude that was basically turned into the comedy special by Shaq of the NBA,
Yeah.
um,
Oh yeah.
his resolve to keep playing, and me and you talked about him some years back, and
Yeah.
I don't know who he was playing for, but I remember we had a conversation saying like people keep playing with this dude, and he got a lot of intangible things that you could use,
Yeah.
and you think these last 5 years, two teams have used it to win championships,
Yep.
so he
Yeah. Well,
wins,
he decided that he was going to be what he physically was, which is long, a person that could jump out of the building. He just started doing the utility things, right?
right?
Like he really started saying, "I'm gonna stay in the league if I can do the grimy work," and he
And the
started doing it.
blocks and shots,
Blocks, yeah,
I'm like,
block
yeah,
shots, rim run, rim run as best as he can.
yeah.
I like that. Jump into the Mavericks, man.
Woo, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the unicorn healthy?
He's overweight.
Is he's off of another surgery, isn't he?
You know what? I'm not sure. Oh, you're talking about
Not
no,
Doncic.
not Luca.
I'm talking about Porzingis.
Porzingis.
Yeah.
Um, Good question. I know that Luca is. I'm gonna say it again. I know that Luca is overweight right now. If Porzingis is injured and Luca's overweight, then what the first 10 to 15 games are going to be a struggle, no matter what.
I
So,
mean, yeah. I mean, Luca can't do it by himself. Number one.
well,
Uh,
he definitely can't do it by himself.
that's number one. I don't. They lost Curry.
They did, yes.
Um,
But Tim Hardaway Jr. is still there. Willie Cauley Stein is
sorry.
a good run. Um,
They picked up Stein.
yeah.
Yeah, they need something
Josh
else.
Richardson, that's a good pickup. Josh Richardson is a good pickup.
Yeah,
James Johnson is a good pickup.
you know what? I feel like Richardson though is going to and I could be wrong, and I'm hoping he's proving me wrong because I loved him in Miami. And
Yeah,
I hated that he had to leave in order for things to happen. I wish he could have stayed and played with Jimmy. But
yeah.
I have a I have this weird feeling that he is now on the Eddie Jones trail.
Oh,
And
it's
remember, you know what I'm talking about. Eddie was playing well, all-star,
yeah,
got
yeah,
the trade came,
yeah,
and he had 1 or 2 good years with Charlotte, and then it was just like next thing you know, we don't see Eddie no more. And I think he did an interview where he basically said that that trade messed him up mentally.
yeah, yeah.
And I feel like with Josh keep getting traded and moving, that he could possibly fall into that trap.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Yo, real quick, shout out Special Says, what's up? Happy Wednesday to you. Please follow the Homegirl Special Says. We are talking basketball today. So I know normally when people tune in, I'm doing music. I'm with my homeboy Opoetik, one of the dopest MCs in Southern California. Shoot, in the
oh
world at
man,
this point, man. I like the records you're putting out. But
appreciate it.
so yeah, feel free to stick around if you have a favorite team, throw it in the chat. You know what I'm saying? If you are still here, just listening and kicking it, throw your favorite team in the chat so we can spend a little more time on that team than we might, depending upon who the team is. If your favorite team was the Chicago Bulls, you didn't get nothing from us. But I'll spend more time on it if you throw it in the chat. Um, yeah, I think Josh Richardson, that trade did mess him up. I know mess up Eddie Jones. Josh Richardson, really, at the end of the day, again, I've been saying utility quite a bit, but I think the utility players are really the more important players in the NBA right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so I still think Josh Richardson, as a utility player for Dallas, just kind of, he's not an upgrade from Wesley Johnson, but he's a lateral move and an improvement on the defensive side, right? Like
yeah. Well, and he's younger, I think,
yeah,
right?
he's
Yeah.
younger, a little less injury prone.
So I think
Yeah,
he could definitely help them.
yeah,
Um, Dallas is interesting though because I feel like they're always in this position and then they make a jump and then they go back to this position. So like with Dirk, for instance, right? They were with Dirk. They had Steve Nash and Dirk. They were running. Then they made the trade, got rid of Nash, where Nash left. I can't remember which one happened,
Yeah,
but
Nash
then
left.
it was just Dirk, and then Dirk had a bunch of running mates, but none of them really stuck. And
Yeah.
then they hit that one year where they got Jason Terry, one of my least favorite years. But anyways, they got Jason Terry and Jason Kidd and and Kidd decided that he wanted to learn how to shoot 3 pointers all
1
of a
year.
sudden.
Shout out to
Um,
Jason Kidd. He gave that to Rajon Rondo this year.
man, him, that whole team, um, I because this is gonna sound like a fan thing, but it's okay. The one thing, if we can go back for a second, that
Sure.
team that year, they did everything right that could be done right to win that series. They shot out the park. Uh, they defended better than they ever defended,
Yep.
and they took advantage of Miami going to sleep. And so the stars aligned. They won a championship, and I feel like they're right back in that situation. They have this dude, Luca. They got him a side piece, but he's hurt.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know if we're gonna ever see Porzingis that we saw in New York again. The fact that he keeps getting hurt like this,
Yep.
so they're gonna have to find another piece or lose him.
Yep.
Um, and if Doncic is as much of a fan and a student of the NBA as it is,
Mhm.
he won't stick around. Cuban won't be able to be like, but we'll do this and we'll do that. He's gonna leave.
Well, Cuban's been able to put together. Yes, I agree with everything you said. I also think that Cuban has been really good at putting together good teams
Yes,
that
agree.
look like they can do something. Like it, and I think that's the allure, right? Nash didn't buy it. Nash bounced out, went over
Yeah,
to the Suns and had a great run with the Suns.
yeah.
And your description of events about what happened between Dallas and Miami, don't get me started about my description of events between the Lakers and the Suns because I don't even want to talk about that. So the the um the thing about it here is this: the more that I pay attention to what they put together over there, every piece that they added. I don't know about this draft. Josh Green, 18th overall. I don't know. It's that middle
Yeah.
weird part of the draft. I do not know. But it just doesn't look like a championship team yet. It always, and this is when I'm agreeing with you and adding on to you saying they're always in this position. It looks great. It looks like, dang, yo, this is going to end in game 7 in either the Western Conference Finals or the second round. Like, it just doesn't look like, yo, this team is actually going to push through and win it all. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Unless Josh Richardson, you know, becomes what he's been looking like off and on. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, they got Courtney Lee, Devontae.
They
Um,
got some shooters over there, like some. I don't know about shooters, but they got some pretty good offense
with
players
the
over
White Powell.
there.
I
Yeah,
think honestly, I think that they're going to be the team that you don't want to have to face in the first or second
and that's
round because
who they've always
you're
been.
gonna you should beat them, but you
Yeah,
just don't want to play them.
no, you don't.
And I think they proved that in the bubble too. I think
I agree.
that you just don't want to play them.
I
Um,
agree.
and so because even if you come out of it, you're gonna be exhausted.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. The next team that's like that is the one we're going to talk about next, which would be the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
Um, they're that team you do not want to face. Period. Point blank. I do think losing Jeremy Grant is a big loss in
I
my
was
opinion.
just about to say that I got that, and that loss. He went to Atlanta,
Yeah, he went to Atlanta. Yes, that's true. He got his
so
money.
that's a whole nother thing with going back to Atlanta. But
Yeah,
I don't know how they replace him. And see, there's people right now who they'll hear that and they won't get it.
yeah, yeah.
They won't get it. But even I think after that series, I believe LeBron even said, "Yo, that kid."
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
and one thing I've learned is when cats like LeBron or Kobe or Mike, when they talk about you in that way,
Hmm.
it's not because they trying to like throw smoke. They literally are like, like this
That was.
dude, like
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
let's count it off. Dude he's in that perfect basketball body range,
yes,
long
yes,
arms, can jump, actual height. Um, not top heavy, not bottom heavy. So he's
Oh,
well balanced. He can handle the ball well enough. He can get wide and defend. He can jump and block shots. He didn't need to. I watched him in Philly, man. I was like, I like this kid.
and he can,
And
and he actually has a decent shot.
yeah, yeah,
You're not gonna ask him to score 20 every night, but if they leave him open, he's a problem. And people forget too, he has an NBA pedigree,
yeah, he does.
and both dad and uncle were
Right.
were were solid basketball. One got rings,
Yeah. Multiple rings, yo. So
multiple. um, so so yeah, he's a big loss, I think, for them. I don't know who they get to replace. Millsap's getting old.
mhm.
Um, I think now Jokic has shown all his bag of tricks. So what he does next is important. Does he gotta evolve one more time?
Oh
Um,
man.
just and
There's
not
an X
nothing
factor here,
crazy.
though.
Say that again.
There's an X factor here in all of this. Sorry to cut you off, but there's an X factor here in all of this. Who is Michael Porter Jr.? Like, who is he? You know what I'm
And
saying?
we
If
and we still don't know because the dude. What I saw in the playoffs is this, and I kept telling my friend, I was like, dude, when he talked, and everybody was like, "Oh, shut up, young buck," and da.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I looked at it different. I was
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, you don't really want to do that, but at the same time, I'm like, what he said was actually pretty smart.
yeah.
Look, we're playing against a team that knows Murray, Jokic. If y'all two gonna be the only ones dribbling and shooting the ball, we are not gonna win, and I
Yes,
can play basketball.
yes, yes.
So while maybe with the media is not the perfect time to do it,
Yeah, I don't think you make it public.
he had a point. So if he can be the guy that they were, even if he can be 80% of the dude that they said he was supposed to be coming into the league, which you remember they were comparing him to KD.
Yeah, yeah.
If he can be 80% of that, Denver's going to be a problem for a little while, because
They
then
are.
that means that now you can't double up on Jokic. You can play around with Murray, and you definitely not going to be able to play around with Porter. So
No.
if he can get to that place, they have a three-headed monster that are all young, and that's a problem.
And I think it also makes you were saying Paul Millsap is getting old, and you're correct on that. But I think that this actually that rejuvenates Paul Millsap because now you got a couple one-on-one matchups. You're gonna get a lot of switching on Michael Porter on and off
Yeah,
Michael Porter Jr. You're gonna get a
yeah,
ton of it. Just the nature of where he takes his shots from.
true.
There's gonna be a ton of that. You got J. Michael Green pickup. It doesn't replace Jeremy Grant. None of these pickups replace Jeremy Grant. By the way,
And we're forgetting the one guy who won me a championship on the TV set. Will Barton. Will Barton, you remember the first championship. Will Barton was, he was
all right,
very important.
he was. He was injured last year. And
Yeah,
that is an excellent point. Although, don't bring back the memories of that. Like, come on, man, what are we doing right now? That's unfair. So close, so close. Gary Harris, like, what are you gonna do? Are you going to be
yeah.
it, or are you not? Like, it's because you're taking up space at this point. And I'm not dissing Gary Harris. I like
No, I
him,
hear
man,
you
and
saying
that's why
that.
I'm wondering. Like, okay, but let's say they hit on all cylinders. Okay, just flat out,
Right.
they
Yeah,
hit on all cylinders. Are they a championship team hitting on all cylinders?
I think so.
You think so? I
I
would
think
agree
so.
with that. I would agree
Yeah,
with that. I don't know a lot of teams that could beat them. Looking at this roster, if everything is working, it would be hard as hell to beat them. But your X factors are Gary Harris. Your X factors are Michael Porter Jr. Your X factors are Will Barton. Who are they gonna be when it's time to run? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And that's the biggest
You know what's
question.
funny? As we go through this, you know what this sounds like to me? It sounds like that the Karl Malone Stockton Utah Jazz.
Yeah, yeah,
Russell,
yeah,
who's the going Hornets? What is Hornacek going to do? What is
yeah,
Russell going to do?
Yeah.
what is what was the dude Shannon? I can't remember his name, but they always had who was that third person who
Yeah.
was going to push it. You know what I mean?
Well, Jordan
And I
was going
think
to push it because it was a push off. But go ahead.
okay, I let the Bulls fans deal with that. Uh, but yeah, so I think they're in that space, and you're right. I think if Michael Porter Jr. can be 80% of what he's supposed to was touted to be,
It'd be
they are
crazy.
a major problem.
They are a serious problem. They're a big time problem. Let me go back real quick though. I pretty much know your answers to this. Chicago Bulls playoffs or nah?
Nah,
Cleveland playoffs or nah?
no.
Dallas where in the playoffs? I feel like playoffs. I feel like you're gonna say playoffs, but where in the playoffs?
Oh man, okay. So let me think. West. See, okay, so here's the thing. That to me depends on our conversation with Golden State.
All right, so let's before you answer that, we'll go forward with that one. I'll do the same thing with the Nuggets. We'll have the conversation about Golden State, then we'll go back through playoffs or not for those two, or where in the playoffs for those two teams. Detroit Pistons are up next. Not a lot to talk about. I do have, I like the Jaleel Okafor pickup, the Jeremy Grant pickup. It's Jeremy Grant's with Detroit
Oh, is that
actually.
right? Yes, right. He went
Yeah.
to the Pistons. Um,
Um,
Blake's still there, huh? They still fighting Blake's contract, aren't they?
they
Is
are, but I'm curious. Have you looked at Blake Griffin's stats last year?
no, they were solid.
Yeah, that man was still playing. Like
They were solid, and I mean, he
with
was
some
there
pieces around him, he
beside
might be
him.
something in the East.
They were solid. Yeah, but see, the thing is with Blake is that's the one thing that you can always rely on this. When he's playing, he's going to play well.
Mhm.
But when he's not playing, the team's not going to play all that great.
What is that though? I don't understand what that is. Is he that much a a piece? I know he does. I look, the Laker fans in the chat, we just bear with me, please. I understand the dislike for Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is a freaking excellent all around basketball player. He does everything.
Yes,
He
yes.
rebounds, he
He
scores,
can
he passes
dribble.
well,
He
he plays
defends.
defense.
Yeah,
He and he's added a 3 pointer or a mile 3 pointer to his rep. Like that
right.
dude is an excellent player. And if you take a Blake Griffin and you put him on a team like Miami or a team like Dallas or Denver or these teams that were right there at the end, hey, if you put him on Houston last year,
Yeah, he
it's a
adds to that.
wrap.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So is it that he does so much that makes teams
I,
just kind of fall right through the
so
bottom of the bat when he's not on?
So this is something I did. The few times I do tap into ESPN and all those different things. Someone I don't know who it was, but they had brought that up, and they said that it's actually a gift and a curse
Mm-hmm.
because Blake does so much. It can be a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a good thing. The problem is he does so much, so now everybody else is kind of left standing around.
Right.
But if he doesn't do that much, then I don't know, besides that Clippers team, if he's had enough people around him reliable. And I think people also forget that Clippers team, wasn't it like every other year one of the main guys was hurt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every other year, like literally it'd be like Blake's hurt. Okay, well, Chris Paul's playing well. Chris Paul's hurt. Okay, well, Blake's hurt. All right, well,
Yeah.
DeAndre's hurt. All right.
But
Like,
none of them were hurt when Houston came back and beat them, though.
no,
Just to
there's
be
no
fair,
excuse
there
there
was
for
there
sure.
was no
No,
excuse at all. They were healthy.
no,
So
no excuse. Uh, I'm just saying, like with him, he may be in that status of he gonna give you what he give you,
yeah,
but he can also mess up the chemistry of a team possibly.
understood.
So like
That's a
even
good
when you
point.
said if he was on some of those teams you mentioned, I go, yeah, but then see, like for instance, like you said, Miami. Well, Miami's philosophy is moving the ball. Like Blake's
Yeah.
kind of a ball sticker.
But he's not though. He is, but he isn't because he dives towards the rim probably better than anybody, right?
True.
He plays without the ball extremely well, and he doesn't, at least openly, at least from what I'm seeing, he doesn't demand the ball like that. I mean, he
No, but he
commands it.
can he has moments though in the wrong moments to do too much.
Okay. Okay.
In the wrong moments. You know what I'm
So
saying? Like, there's moments where it's like, oh, I can do this by myself. And then
right.
he's doing it and it eats up clock. And so I think his future is what Melo's is right now.
Okay.
He's gonna have
Okay.
to come off the bench. on a good team.
I'm about to completely disagree with that, but I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna hear you out.
And I didn't say right now. I didn't say right now. I'm
You said
saying
ultimately.
his
Yeah,
future is looking like Dwight, Carmelo, where he's gonna have to say, okay, am I hurting or helping this team by starting?
sure.
And I possibly, depending on where he goes. Now with the Pistons, he ain't coming off the bench. That's
Nah,
just
he
stupid.
shouldn't. That doesn't make no sense.
But
Yeah.
if his thought is I want to win, and he looks around the league and says, where can I go? A couple of those teams, he's gonna have to be like either 6 man or I'll start, but I'm not playing
I
30
I
plus minutes.
I
And that's
think
not
he
a
has
diss. I think Blake,
no, no,
I
you're right.
agree with you with
You're
Blake.
right. You're right because of his contract and where he's at right now. It looks like that's how this
It's
story
how it's
ends,
playing
especially
out.
with another injury. If something happens, and I'm not sure where he's at in his contract, but I know, I mean, God, the Clippers did him extremely dirty with that contract, yo.
That was
They did
crazy.
him so dirty, yo. But I don't know. Let me just throw this out there: playoffs or not for Detroit roster. Looking at the roster, no,
I haven't even looked at the roster. I'm just gonna say no.
no. Jeremy Grant on the squad, um, Blake Griffin on the squad, Derrick Rose is still on the squad, correct?
I
Um,
believe so. I thought he went to Minnesota. Or was Minnesota before the Pistons?
Minnesota was before the Pistons, and
Okay. Okay.
they, yeah, when we get to Minnesota, it's gonna be funny. Yeah, Derrick Rose is there, Jeremy Grant is there, Josh Jackson. All right. Um, I'm just going down. Jalil, they picked up.
They
I
drafted the
like I
kid.
said, I like the Jalil Okafor pickup. They have Trevor Ariza over there. Not that doesn't mean too much, but it means something.
I mean,
Um,
I'll say this: they're gonna the couple teams they'll definitely upset, and this is the other part too. I think whoever's like listening and just us in general, this season is going to be interesting in itself.
right.
So, like you and me even having this conversation, we're having it in the bubble of what
Oh,
normality is in the
we gonna
NBA.
check in mid season. We gonna check
Right,
in mid season and
because there's
see where we're
no
right and wrong.
there's so many aspects. Like I think when we weren't on air, we were talking about the COVID
Yep.
possibilities.
Yeah.
The NBA is games every other day, every day.
Yep.
One guy gets COVID today, he's out 14 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially at
Let's not
least
even
five, some maybe even 10, 9, 10
right.
games.
Let's not even talk about like if we get close to playoff or we get to first round of playoffs. Good
Ooh.
lord,
Can you imagine? LeBron
you
gets COVID in the
I'm
second
saying
round.
Jimmy Butler first round game one COVID test.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
Giannis, like, what do you? We don't know what that's going to look like. So
absolutely.
all of this is just based on normal NBA focal point. Now,
Yeah.
these other things, and people will say, "Well, there's always been injuries." I can sprain my ankle, tape it
Yeah.
up, and still play. I
Sure.
can, matter of fact, I can have a slight tear in certain parts of my body and still play.
Sure.
There's a protocol. You can't play.
You can't play, and you can't practice either. Not with the
You
squad.
can't do nothing.
You can't
So
do
there's
anything.
a
Yeah.
whole other element here. So from normal standards, I don't see this Piston team getting to
Okay.
the playoffs. Honestly, I don't know if they even want to because I don't think it would help them any besides maybe and because we're not talking about revenue no more. It's not like I don't know what it's going to look like come playoff time.
That's we don't even have the hours for,
You know what I'm
for that
saying?
conversation.
So
Yeah.
whatever. So like I'm gonna say I think no. I don't think they out um any of those teams that were in there last year.
Sure. Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, excuse my bad. Bottom of the league, Orlando is definitely still looking better than this Piston squad. I
yeah,
won't argue
for
that.
sure.
Sure. I getting to the meat of the conversation because this is one of the better ones to discuss. Let's swing right into Golden State. Um,
Man,
second pick overall, they picked up James Wiseman. Of course, the bigger story though is the return of Steph Curry, but the loss again
of Clay.
of Clay.
Yeah.
Wow, like Kelly Oubre Jr. was a hell of a pickup, though. Good grief, that was a hell of a pickup.
In that situation, yes, sir. I'm
Yeah.
gonna 100% agree with that.
I mean, and they got Kent Bazemore off the bench. And before people yell at me about saying anything about Kent Bazemore in a like Kent Bazemore off the bench when you don't have to run him for 30 minutes
Yeah,
is perfect to play alongside somebody like Steph Curry.
there's
Um,
guys like
you know what
that.
I'm saying?
Like I think what happens is those dudes end up on teams where they got to start. Like
Yeah,
Bazemore was on Atlanta, right? And so
yeah,
everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy sucks. Why is he
yeah,
starting?"
yeah,
Well, that was the best guy they had at that position.
yeah,
So, but if you move him to the bench,
yeah,
you don't know. It's like wow, okay. There's a reason why guys like Lou Williams come off the bench still.
yeah, yeah,
There's a reason, right? You need that, right? So he's a good defender, Bazemore is. He can hit, knock down a jumper.
yeah.
He can get to the rim, and with limited minutes, he's not going to hurt you too much.
Word. Yo, for those of you guys who are checking in, what up? Big up, big up. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. This is What's in the Box Track with my homeboy, Opoetik. You can pick up his album by we talking basketball today, but I do want to make sure that you know that you can pick up Opoetik's album on opoetic.bandcamp.com. We're gonna keep rolling through talking basketball. We're gonna get through these teams. So I think really the meat of this for me, Op, is because we're gonna go back through and discuss Denver and Dallas after you give an answer to this question:
Right,
playoffs or nah for Golden State.
man. I'm gonna say they squeeze into the eighth, but that's a really, really, really tight one because I don't trust Wiggins.
Mm.
Wiseman is still a baby,
Yeah.
and I don't know if Curry is durable enough to get through all of this. And they are literally one COVID test away from being back to the lottery anyway. So,
Right.
um, and I also think that this might be the year where they're gonna have to really, because see now Clay coming off of two serious injuries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be the year where they may have to think, is this train done? And do we look to the future or do we try to ride this out? Because as we both know, as much as I like Draymond as that other guy,
Mm-hmm.
if he's your two,
It's over.
it's that's not what you want.
It's
So if
over.
it's mediocre 60% Clay,
Mm-hmm.
90% Curry, and then you got Draymond, honestly, the first team that throws me the right deal, I'm trading them.
Yeah, I would move. I would have moved Clay in the offseason, honestly, pre-injury. I
Mm,
know that they were trying to make another another run, but my argument with Golden State, and I look, I don't care if y'all get mad. They were done if KD didn't show up. The year before, they beat um probably an emotionally challenged KD. We know now. Like
yeah,
if we want to talk about Kevin Durant, we know now. We know we had a burner Twitter account. I don't get like to get into that stuff, but this actually means something because we know. We know
yeah,
that the conversation or that the shouting match or whatever between him and Draymond had an effect on him not coming back to Golden State. We know that he is affected by how people talk. I'm not saying that's good, bad, or great. I'm just saying
right.
we know that he's affected. So they beat an emotionally affected Kevin Durant in a series they should have lost, and then followed up by losing to the Cavaliers in a series they should have won. Right?
Yeah, no,
And
I
then they picked up KD the next season. I think they were done. Matter of
me and
fact,
my no,
real
I
quick, real
agree.
quick. Let me point this out. Matter of fact,
Yeah,
that was the thing that made KD leaving OKC so much different from LeBron leaving Cleveland. OKC had a shot.
thank you. Oh my God,
OKC
thank
had
you
a
so much.
shot. You know what I'm
Thank
saying?
you for saying this.
And people want to argue this a lot with me. And I definitely still was not a super fan of how LeBron made the move to Miami.
Right,
But I will
right.
tell you this: if you want to compare it to KD, you cannot compare it as if it's apples to apples because the
You
year
can't.
before he left, he had that team down 3-1. They either finish the job next season or they pick up a role player and finish the job even easier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was the difference between when he left. He was emotionally affected, and that's why I say I would trade Klay Thompson in the offseason this year. And people are like, well, people, I know that's like crazy to hear, but I think you got to make that move now. Now, the question would be for who? And I don't have an answer to that question straight up and
Yeah,
down. But you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think me and my pops was actually talking about Golden State and how, yeah, I remember like, big up to Mark Jackson. But that was a
Shout out.
that was a very unorthodox situation.
Mm-hmm.
And they created they created a different brand of basketball that nobody was ready for. And they
Right.
exploited it for however many years.
Yep.
But the league slowly started to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as you can see, this is where we're at. Look at the playoffs we just watched. So
Yeah.
they were only going to be able to sustain that. The only reason they sustained it as long as they did is adding KD, which gave them a different element.
It gave him a three for real, legitimate,
And
four All Stars.
I think personally, if you
They did
don't
without
put
him.
that next year, if KD's not on that team, Clay
Yeah.
hurt or not, I don't know if they beat um that Cleveland team. So
Well, I don't think they get past Houston
it's
without Kate.
it's very possible. So that when we get the Houston situation is weird too, is because
Yeah.
I think about this. Chris Paul didn't play
Yep.
what, two of those games,
Yep. The last two.
and as much as him and Harden may have not got along later, Chris Paul controlled the pace of that team. And
Yeah.
when he was gone, they tried to duel it out with Golden State, and you can't win that game with them.
No, because they were winning in the first half of the games, and then slowly but surely, just because listen, I'm a Mike D'Antoni apologist, but there is one thing I cannot deny is great coaches are found in halftime adjustments, and Mike
Yeah,
D'Antoni
he
is
don't adjust.
at adjustments. He keeps banging his head against the wall the same way that he did before, and
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah,
so they were getting beat by that. Now this year, I don't think they really had a shot to begin with. I think they were
nah,
outside. That year, they definitely had a chance.
nah. But you will definitely hit Houston in a minute. But I still feel like I always, after watching D'Antoni after a couple of years, you know who he reminds me of,
Who's that?
just in his record and stuff. And he actually coached the same style, Don Nelson.
Donnell. Well, that's what. Yeah, my boy, Mr. C says that all the time. That it's Don Nelson basketball with a little more defense, just a tad bit more defense.
I mean, and then you know, I'm gonna go ahead and be not humble about this. And then Spo took it and added some defense to it,
Well, Kerr took
and
it and added some defense to it. Spo took it and added some defense to it,
and pow.
and boom, it was over. Well, but here's the thing. Believe it or not, he's had top 10 defensive teams a couple years. That the year that they lost, the year we're talking about, they were
Yeah,
top. They were top 10 defense. They think they were sixth in defense that year.
but
This year, oddly
I
enough, they were
wonder
top
about
10
that
defense.
though. Is it because defense is analytics when they say top, when they do the top down, it's
Yeah,
analytics, so it's like how many
sure.
turnovers, so then I start questioning like how many forced turnovers versus how many just like turnovers because of the speed of the game.
That's a
And
good question.
some
Go
people
ahead.
won't differentiate the two, but they're very important, especially from a coaching standpoint. Forced turnovers is one thing.
Right.
Self-inflicted turnovers is another thing.
Sure.
And but they're not differentiated on a
I
stat
think
sheet.
I think that's an excellent point. Although I will say you can, well, you might be able to find it if you do like a steals to turnovers comparison.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Sort
when
of.
they report that to them top
Right.
stats, they don't break it down and be like,
Right.
well, the Lakers had 7 turnovers where the
The ball
ball
bounced off their
flew
knee.
off dude's foot
Yeah.
versus this
Well,
team's.
that's what I'm saying. But if I say that because I've had this conversation before, and what I look at in those situations where I'm trying to figure out whether the turnovers in the game were pace or not is I look at
Right,
steals. So if I
right,
see 10 to 12 steals, then I start to say, all right, these weren't like kick the ball out of bounds or throw the ball out of bounds turnovers. These
right. Because
were
the same thing
actual
happens
handle the
with
ball.
assists.
Yeah,
It's the same thing happens with assists to a degree.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
was that pass? Did that pass lead you to a shot, or did you just happen to? I passed it to KD 12 times in one game. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Kyrie gonna get a lot of that this season. To your point, to that point, because Houston is next, so we'll just move into Houston, and then we'll go back through these playoff teams that we said we go through. We
Oh
probably
man.
gonna do half. We probably got to meet up again next Wednesday and do the second half of this
Oh,
because
I'm with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Woo. Houston.
yeah, yeah. Let's go. Let's go. I'm excited. I got to hear this. Let's go.
So when Houston announced the trade
Mm-hmm.
for Wall,
Mm-hmm.
I literally felt like, and the people around me, I was the only person that was like, "Whoa, this could be perfect
Sure. Yes.
for both teams." That's how I
Yes.
looked. I was like, both sides
Yes.
win.
Yes. I didn't
Everyone
see a
else was
loss for
like,
either team. Yeah.
yeah, everyone was like, "No, this doesn't need a team," and did it. And I'm like, wait, are we not? And this is what I realized. Earlier, we talked about Kevin Love and Hayward
Hayward, Gordon
being
Hayward. Yeah.
on teams where they had to take all these shots.
Yeah.
John Wall, people forget, was never an offensive minded point guard.
Right.
In Kentucky, he dished, he penetrate dish.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
his claim to fame was never his shot; it was his getting to the rim, right?
Yes. Sure.
So when he goes to Washington, who had not really had a whole lot of success, I mean, I think he played with Gilbert Arenas for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Um, but he was basically put in a position where he looked around and had his best player at one point next to him was Gortat.
Yeah. Yep. At one point, yes.
So you go, okay, what was I supposed to do with that? I got to score because if we lose, you're gonna blame it on me every time. So he became a shooting point guard. When I saw this trade, I went, oh, and he got hurt when him and Bradley Beal started rolling.
Yep.
So
Yep.
now I'm like, okay, he's been out for 2 years. If he can even come back and play 75%, and Cousins can play 75%, and Harden is Harden,
Yep.
that's all. And then they still got Gordon.
Yep.
Tucker's still there.
Tucker's still there. Yep.
I believe they had another shooter coming off the bench. I can't think of his name. And then they picked up the one person nobody's talking about, who I didn't see a lot of, but I started hearing his name, so I started checking in. Woods
Yep. Christian
from
Wood.
the Pistons.
Yep. That's good.
And then they bring in this coach who says, we're going to slow it down a little bit, but we're going to play a lot of pick and roll basketball. And I kind of saw a little bit of the other day when Harden played his first game, and I was like, whoa, because they ran one play where basically Cousins came up and set a screen, which I've seen it on other teams, but Cousins
Sure.
is a different type of player.
Yeah.
He set the screen, Harden went off of it. Cousins rolled, but he rolled to the top of the key.
Yep.
When it got kicked back to him, he was one-on-one with a point guard. Cousins got a little bit of handles and he got size. So he basically put it on the floor and bullied dude to the basket. And I was like, man, this is a problem because now
It's
you
gonna
got
be
to
a problem.
figure out, do you switch? Do you stay? And Wall looked like he got his quickness still a little bit. So I was like, you know what? This could be a problem. Uh, and I still think it could be as long as they keep this out the media.
Let's kind of throw. I'm gonna throw a few. I'm just gonna try to play devil's advocate because it's. I actually kind of 100% agree with you here, but there isn't a legitimate backup for DeMarcus Cousins, and you're gonna need one.
True.
Right. Um. Who? So what happens? This is kind of the difference, and I think one of the arguments that you brought up that is very important is that people saying like Washington or Houston immediately lost this trade, right? But the difference between um, Russell Westbrook and John Wall is like it's really obvious in connection to James Harden.
Yeah, but no one
Like
else seems to see that. They keep
it's
saying,
yeah,
I even heard dumb Stephen A say they're the same player. And I'm like, what?
they're not even close. And they don't play like the Rockets got better last year when Russell Westbrook stopped shooting threes. Matter of fact, it was a change in his career almost entirely. He shot like 47, 48%
Right.
on a year. And that was after atrocious shooting for the first like 15, 20 games. He actually ended up responding and finalizing at about 48%, 47,
Right.
48%. But they were playing in the same spots. Russell Westbrook and James Harden play in the exact same spot. That's pretty much why James Harden couldn't start in OKC. They were playing from the exact same spots on the
Right,
floor most
right,
times.
right.
John Wall and James Harden are not going to be in the same spots. John Wall
No,
is attacks from a completely different place
yeah,
than Russell Westbrook. Matter of fact, John Wall attacks out of the rebound. I mean, Russell Westbrook is the grab the rebound and push dude. And watching Houston last year, the benefit of having a Russell Westbrook was when you took Harden off the floor, who's also a grab a rebound and push dude,
yeah.
you had people down floor and your point guard with the ball in his hands.
You're right.
Now Wall is an outlet pass. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying? So now it's a whole different thing because now Wall is either attacking and scoring, which again, you said is not his normal repertoire, right?
No, not from the perimeter. He's trying to get to the rim.
Right. So now you got a rim running dude who still has some quickness, and if all things break down, Wall is. It's hard to say when one player averaged a triple double for a season, but Wall is still a much better passer.
Yeah,
Wall is a natural real life point guard. So
yeah.
this team actually looks good to me. It actually looks good to me. I don't know why people are so against it. It actually looks really good to me. I mean,
This, I
Harden acting
think,
an idiot in the offseason is one thing.
right. I think the reason that people are so against it is because what we talked about earlier, their personal feelings about the two players,
Yeah.
Westbrook and Harden, which I think you and me have kind of been two of the Westbrook fans.
Yes, I'm a
Oh,
big fan of Russell Westbrook.
in
Let's not say
in
that.
backlash to all the people that we know who are not, they have all these things to say about him, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, you what's interesting to me is, so Chris Paul got all this credit for taking OKC where he did, right?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
is well deserved.
It definitely
Um,
is. Yeah.
and while Westbrook didn't get say as far, he was actually also taking hodgepodge teams into the playoffs.
Yo. Well,
So
wait. They got to the second round or the first round? Where did OKC get this year?
second round.
Okay. I don't didn't Russell Westbrook take them to the second round or did he only get to the first? The
No,
Jazz
I
beat
think
them in
he
the
kept
first.
losing in the first round.
Something
But
like that. I
also,
don't
but see, people forget because I remember those rounds.
know.
Uh, there was a dude, not Cephalosha. What is this dude's name? I
Aaron
can't
Robertson.
remember who.
Is it Aaron Robertson? Robertson?
Oh yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
15% from the free throw line. I watched that series. This dude missed every open three possible to man, yet people were still saying Westbrook was a ball hog. He passed this man the ball on numerous key game-changing possessions.
Paul George also in a
Bam.
necessary game was 2 for 18. Carmelo Anthony was 3 for 9. Yo,
So what do you
they were
want West
5 for 27 combined. What was Russell Westbrook supposed to do?
passing to him? For what? For
For what?
why? Look, me and you both played this sport before. I'm gonna tell you right now, even in a pickup game, if after the first 3 points the other team scores and I've dished out to 3 people and you ain't scored, we only going to 12,
Yeah,
like maybe 15.
yeah.
Uh look, man.
I gotta at least get us in the game. I gotta at least get us in the game. And
Yeah,
here's the other thing. This is the Kobe Bryant argument that a lot of people wouldn't have. Okay. If we lose this game, the cameras is in my face.
yes,
They're not in your face. And I think that's the one thing that was always lost in the conversation about Kobe Bryant and is now lost in the conversation about Russell Westbrook.
I
When
agree.
the team loses, everybody like Kobe, you lost, or Russell Westbrook, you lost. I mean, Russell Westbrook would shoot 54% in a game with the Rockets. And people will be like, Russell Westbrook at it again. I'm like, that man shot 54% from the guard position. He got to the basket on every. What do you want? You want 80%? Like, how do you want more from this dude? So getting back to that, like, because we're on Houston, John Wall and James Harden is a mystery still to me, though. How they
Yeah,
play together is the
we
biggest
don't
mystery,
know. Right,
and whether you're gonna get. I just don't. Cousins is his first year back. I just don't expect the minutes that he would need for them to be highly successful.
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We're obviously gonna see,
yeah,
but if they can stay uh remotely healthy,
yeah.
I don't see them dropping too much in position.
Nah, not really. I mean, I still see,
Um,
yeah, fourth, fifth, sure,
yeah, I
sure.
don't see them dropping too much. I mean, at worst, they end up in like 7 or something. Which honestly, if they end up at 7, I'm just gonna assume right now that 2 is gonna be either Denver, Clippers, or the Lakers. Which I think Lakers gonna be 1, but you just never know. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
say so. Whoever's in that
I
one
would agree with
2
that.
is gonna be one of those teams, possibly Utah, um,
Yeah,
and they're not gonna want to have to play them.
word.
None of them teams are gonna want to play that team.
Nah, I agree with you. Let's go back real quick, and just go through the playoffs in all positions. So Dallas
Yeah,
Mavericks, where do you have them after the conversations we had about Golden State and Houston?
well, seeing that, I'm gonna say they're gonna be fighting for that 7.
Okay,
I think
all
seven,
right,
7, 6. Yeah,
okay. Denver Nuggets, where do you have them?
top 3, 4.
Golden State Warriors, playoffs or not? First of all,
I'm gonna just say no. I'm gonna
no.
just
Okay,
say no.
okay.
Yeah,
That's fair for this point. Houston
yeah,
Rockets, where do you have them? Best case scenario.
6.
All right. I'm gonna roll right. Okay, cool. I'm gonna roll right past. And I do have the only disagreement I have is, you know what? I don't actually disagree with that. I feel like Golden State could weirdly end up in like ninth, and it would be a
That's what
battle.
I'm saying. They
Portland,
could be right there fighting with them, Portland, Minnesota. But see, Portland's a mystery too, and we didn't get to them yet. But
well,
um,
Memphis is the
Memphis,
fight too. Yeah.
and see, Memphis got a chip on their shoulder because John Morant have said on numerous occasions he was pissed because he felt like they should have been the 8th if not for the whole
Yeah.
bubble playoff in thing, right? And
Well, yeah.
he has a valid point actually based on where they ended the season. Um,
Man, you got to run. Like he
but
ain't
you
got a
gotta
valid
still,
point.
but
You got
no,
to
you
run.
still
You know what I
gotta
mean?
win. You gotta
Yeah.
win. I'm just saying that if as a kid I understood where he's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Circumstances are what they are, so you figure it out. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're going to be a tough one. So I think that eighth seed is going to be what it normally is, and we ain't even talked about Phoenix. So there's a whole nother.
It's a whole other thing. All right, we coming up on 7. We passed 7:30. We gonna roll right past the Indiana Pacers. They didn't make any major moves. I see them in the playoffs still, no matter what. But I don't see them
Maybe because
doing
I
anything
don't know if
special.
TJ Warren going to be the same dude we saw in that bubble.
That's true. But he's had flashes. He had flashes of it in Phoenix.
True, true.
Um, so it's kind of crazy to stop at the Lakers and Clippers.
Is
Like
that where we're at?
it's like a cliffhanger. Yeah, we're at the Lakers and the Clippers. We still got to do like Lakers, Clippers, Miami would be next. Let's knock the Clippers out, and then
Okay,
next
and we'll start with our teams
let's
next
start
time.
with our teams next time. This is the warm up episode. All right. So Clippers, of course, the biggest move is Serge Ibaka. I do like the Nicholas Batum pickup if he can remain healthy.
True.
The draft picks are 33rd and 55th. Not expected to immediately produce. And then
Yeah.
Luke Kennard in the trade with Toronto. Um, I don't see. I don't know. Montrezl Harrell and Serge Ibaka are a lateral transition to me. They're just not that they play exactly the same. I'm just saying you're going to get kind of, you know what I'm saying? If there was a video game, kind of stat thing, it would be like one would be this much faster, but this much stronger and this much faster. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
I agree.
I'm not
I pers-
sure where that lands.
I think with them too, I know everybody was like, "Oh, Lakers stole." I honestly think that for Ibaka and Harrell, they ended up in the better places for them.
Yeah.
I think honestly, this might be the one thing the Clippers got right by letting him go. And I say that because they kept saying the knock on him was his defense,
Right.
right?
Right.
He fell off when he couldn't get touches anymore because George is bad playing and Leonard's getting his. And so his lack of touches took away his value to the Clippers. So him playing with the Lakers, the thing there is that now attention on Davis, attention
Mm-hmm.
on LeBron, attention on um, possibly Kuzma or one of those other guys. He's going to get a lot of dunks, tip dunks. He's going to be a lot of putbacks. And the biggest thing, he won't have to play the biggest dude on the court no more.
There's your point. That
So
was to
he's no
I
more a
don't know.
liability.
I don't know if the touches affected Harrell as much as the fact that he had to guard players like Jokic who can also stretch the floor. I'm
Hmm.
gonna bleed into the Lakers a little bit here because I think that that's one of the arguments I'm gonna have when we talk next time about Mark Gasol and Dwight Howard. The
I
footwork
know where you're gonna go with that too.
so Harrell actually is still going to end up in that same position because when you I mean this is Laker talk. Let me save that. With Serge Ibaka, the benefit between when they had Marc Gasol and him in Toronto, late games, Serge was the one that was on the floor at the center spot.
Right.
And the reason why is because he could guard between the rim and he could never guard the rim as good as Marc Gasol could.
He's
And
more athletic. He's more athletic.
much more athletic, and he could actually get out and had the. It's not just the size and the speed to guard a big player on the
No,
perimeter because PJ Tucker does it better than anybody I've ever seen.
it's footwork, man.
It's, it's
People don't understand that footwork is important, man, and that's honestly why a lot of these people try to figure out why all of a sudden you're starting to see a lot of these African kids
mm-hmm.
coming into the league at that height and position and getting drafted and brought in. Most of them grew up playing soccer.
Yeah,
Their footwork is
crazy.
great.
Yeah,
So if you can tune up the basketball part,
yeah,
you got a player.
yeah,
And Obaka is a prime example of that, right?
yes,
His
yes.
footwork is amazing. It was when he was at OKC. So he can, even though he may not be one-on-one able to guard that small forward or that shooting guard, he
Mm-hmm.
knows how to keep his hands active and move laterally to stay in front. And he's a shot blocker. So hands up.
He
Um,
gives you a chance. Well, he gives you a chance because that's all that you can ask a center to do who has to guard a
yep.
long three or somebody else. Just give me a shot. That's what. To be fair, Iguodala's a much better perimeter defender than anybody we just named. But one of the things he consistently did as he got older was simply just slow the person down enough for you to
Yep.
have a shot to reset defensively and find your
Yep.
man. Because it was normally on a switch, right? Unless
Yep.
he was guarding LeBron straight up, they do a switch here, switch there, and before you know it, or let me use PJ Tucker as an example. They're gonna switch to get PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker has the footwork and the strength to have
Yeah.
AD have to think about the shot he's going to take, which gives
Yes.
everybody a chance to find a man and reset. That's what
Yep.
Serge Ibaka does. That's what Montrezl Harrell could not do
Right.
because by the
And every
time by the
every
time a
point.
shooter like Joker got the ball, Joker made a decision before Harrell was even set because his footwork is
Oh,
not even close to what Serge's is.
no,
So
he already knew. He knew I can get by you. I can shoot over you. There's nothing you can do with me, and that's fine. And
yeah,
you funny as you compare that to that's literally what got Akeem Olajuwon where he was. Is he knew footwork wise when they played Shaq in
yeah,
Orlando, and he made Shaq look. Your footwork ain't comparative. You can't work with me,
no,
bro. And that's what he
no,
did.
yeah,
So
he wore him out.
that's where you're at. So I think for the Clippers, Ibaka is an upgrade.
Sure,
And
for
even
sure.
though everybody's like, "Oh, he lost his young guy," now we'll see what happens.
Defensively,
But I think he's an upgrade. I think the Clippers messed up in losing Shamit.
Shamit, yeah, I
They
agree with
they
you.
they jacked up. They messed that up. Um, I think honestly, I think that Lou Williams might check out.
You think so?
I
Well,
don't know if he's enthused about. You got to remember, so they built something there that wasn't necessarily a championship team, but they had a lot of camaraderie and they were one tough punch you in the
perfect
mouth.
word. Perfect word. Here's the problem. The problem last year with the Clippers. Let's keep it 100. The Clippers should have won the championship last year. Like
They could.
keep it 100. They should have. No, not they could have, right? But they absolutely should have won the championship last year. And the reason I say that is because defensively they had everything that they needed. Now they're better now with the swap with at least at that position. They're better
Is it?
now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But last year they had more than enough. They were a little undersized against teams like the Lakers, but I mean, and it showed against Denver weirdly, but they were beating Denver late in the
Right.
game, and
It was 3-1.
it was three. It was up here. The whole thing was up here. That
Yeah.
whole Clipper team is up here. My opinion as to why. is silent leaders in the NBA don't really work. When you had
No,
when you had Kawhi Leonard in Toronto, Toronto was already a winning team. Toronto had his leadership on deck. If anything, hopefully Serge Ibaka can go into that locker room for them if you're a Clipper fan and become an actual leader in the locker room. Because a
yeah,
lead by example about a bunch of rich grown men, that ain't no. What you
no,
mean lead by example? Like Kobe tried that for years and it did not work because dude, what are you talking about? Like I got bread. I'm going to the club after this. I mean, maybe not now with Kobe, but I'm good. If life is good, I don't need to stress myself like you are. But Serge Ibaka and Kyle Lowry were the heart and soul of that team.
yeah. I mean, and
Why?
specifically, if we want to be all the way 100, Lowry,
Yeah,
that's his team.
Lowry.
That
Yeah,
was his team. Him,
yeah,
honestly, even Van Fleet,
yeah.
they were very vocal. They were very like, and Leonard just kind of Leonard basically stepped right back into the Spurs to a degree
To a degree.
because he never was a leader with the Spurs.
No, no,
So
was
it,
not.
it, it is what it is. I will go a different direction when I find out the Clippers problem. When I say the Clippers problem, to me, number one, and you know this is I don't know if this is personal or not, but you already know how I feel about Paul George. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of bias. That's why to be thrown.
um, I've had problems with Paul George since OKC. I mean,
Okay,
since the
since
Pacers.
Pacers, yeah.
Um, and so that's that. But also, uh, George, in my opinion, he does not want the smoke of being the dude. He much rather someone else take the smoke, but he still lightweight wants to be the dude when everything is good.
Right.
And I personally don't think, just based on what happened in Toronto, that the Clippers needed to go all in on George to win even a possible championship. And I say that because they took Golden State to 7 games the year before. If you look at Toronto, the only thing they lost was DeRozan,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They
Yep.
bring in Leonard to the same team essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up winning the championship. Now you got people like it's the East, and I don't want to hear
Nah,
all that stuff.
they
Like
be the Western Conference team, so we're
at the
still
end of the day, these are all professional teams, and you
right.
got to go through something to win.
Yep.
Period. So
Agreed.
I almost looked at the Clippers when he said he was going to Clippers. I was like, yo, he's basically going to Toronto, but
Part two.
defensively better from A to Z.
Right.
Because these dudes is tough. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
punch you in the mouth, Beverly um and Montrez, and you just go down the line. And then they stole, which I thought was a steal. I still think it is. We'll see what happens. Zubac, which y'all didn't have to get rid of, but um,
Shout out to what up, Magic. It turned out okay, so I'm
but
good.
it
I'm not
turned
gonna
out
argue too
okay.
much. Yeah.
But um, but I think that the Clippers had a good thing, and if they would have brought in just Leonard and had patience. Now I also understand that Leonard was saying, "Hey, I need George over
Yeah.
here," supposedly. Um,
Yeah.
so it is what it is. But George, this is going to be the year where he has to prove everybody.
That was last year.
This is it.
Well, that no,
Because
that was with OKC. Like every year that he steps on the court, we say this is gonna be the year. And I was a fan of that dude because I thought the year before he went to OKC, how he played in the playoffs that year with the Pacers, I was
mm-hmm.
like, yo, okay, I
See,
think this
yeah,
dude
because me
woke
and
up.
you, because you told me I was being too hard on him,
Yeah, I thought
and
you
I
was.
was like,
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
like, but what I know, you know, the thing for me that clicked with him, that where I was like, I don't know, Stevenson in
Mm,
that series when they started doing them interviews when they were like losing, Stevenson was the only one that was like, "Hey, we got to play harder. I'll take LeBron. Like whatever, we got to
yeah,
play." Meanwhile, on the other end, George was complaining about refs. He was complaining about shot selection and all this stuff,
yeah,
and he
yeah,
even threw Stevenson under the bus.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Huh." And then Stevenson said in one of his little interviews, he said something along the lines of, he basically said I'm playing harder than my paycheck and other people getting paid more than me and they not
Across the
playing
board.
up to theirs.
Right.
And so every time I saw a press conference, the main dude crying about everything except for what he was doing was Paul
Right.
George.
Right.
And so I was like, I can't. And it didn't help that I was working at this insurance company, and the new guy who started was from Indiana, and he was like the
They
annoying that guy. And every time the Pacers lost during that whole season, he would come to work and be like, the refs, it was the refs all year.
Yeah.
And then in the playoffs, it was, well, if LeBron would stop crying, the Pacers would win a game. And I'll be like, I can't deal with you right now, bruh.
Well, I'll give credit where credit is due. Frank Vogel's a hell of a coach because you look
Yes,
at
I
what
agree.
happened to those players after that, and whoa.
Hey, question. How do you think I thought about this right after you guys won? Oh, and this is my first time face to face. You know what I'm saying? Congratulations. Like everything else has been on, so congratulations on the W.
Let's
Um,
go. Like the game.
but I wonder if somewhere in Vogel was like looking at Spo like, gotcha, bitch. And I say that because yeah, I remember when he played when they went up against Spo the first time, he was with
Yeah.
the Pacers, and
Yeah.
Spo had Wade, LeBron, and Bosh.
Yeah.
Now Vogel has AD and
Never
LeBron.
even thought about it. Didn't even think
And
about
I
it.
was like, oh, Vogel feeling himself a little bit right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
payback.
It had to. He had to feel some type of way.
Oh
He had
yeah,
to feel some type of way.
yeah.
He
Because the
he
Pacers
came
went
back
like
with
this
guns.
after that. Yeah, yeah. He
But he's
definitely he
he
shook that
coached.
hand a little harder,
Yeah, he did, and looked in the eye a little longer. Like, yeah,
a
son.
little longer.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I'm gonna do next episode next Wednesday. We'll jump on 6 p.m.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Thank y'all for hanging with us, man. We went almost 2 hours this time around. We had a lot to get out though. But I'm gonna do my Spoelstra Coach of the Year every year argument.
Just, hey,
A lot of Laker
how
fans
far?
gonna,
Because you
gonna go
know
ahead,
how I felt about dude from day one,
but
and I got. We'll talk about that though when
yeah,
we
we'll
get
talk
to
about. I took a
Lakers
lot of
and
L's for
all.
Spoelstra too, but I tend to be a lot nicer to coaches than most people are. But um,
Oh, me too, being one.
yeah, exactly. If you've ever coached, you're real nice to coaches. Like,
I'm
yo,
like, yo,
I got
hey.
no problems. But yo, last point on the Clippers before we move on and close out. And also, let me put this up on the screen because I'm going to put this up on my YouTube. So I want to make sure that people see you can cop Opoetik's music. He has a record out right now called Dap Days Evolve. Evolve 1, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Evolve 1 produced this record and the Punch and Water record, right?
Yeah, he did everything. Honestly, man, I would say with the exception of like 6 songs, he's done my whole catalog.
Word up. Uh, so shout out to Evolve 1. This um I have a lot of positives to say about both of these records. Punch and Water was one of my favorite records the year it came out, which was what 2018. Was it last year or was it the year before?
It's last year,
It was
to
last year.
mid
So
2019. Yep.
it was one of my favorite records, one of my most listened to records, 2019. Not saying that because you're here, but in real life, and
Oh
one of the
man, I
reasons was
appreciate
because it
that.
was there's an underground perfection. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people try to do underground hip hop, and
Man.
it comes off unauthentic, and that's what kind of gives underground hip hop a bad name. You guys' natural connection, just the sound, the aesthetics of it was like, yo, this record is one of those records that gives you an actual feeling with every
Oh,
song.
appreciate
You know what I
that.
mean?
That's what's up.
And it didn't sound contrived. It sounded like, yo, he was saying that. Like, and the beats was saying what they were saying. So anyway, all of that to say, please check out Opoetik's music, opoetic.bandcamp.com. Last point here about the Clippers, though. They became a parody of themselves.
Hmm.
And I think that's what actually really happened to them.
Yeah.
And as a Laker fan, I don't want to say I was scared because I kind of felt like it was going to happen because your emotional leader last year was Patrick Beverly.
Right.
And when your emotional leader is somebody, I like Patrick Beverly, by the way. He's one of them dudes. I never want him on my team, by the way. But I do know that if he is on a team, you're going to have a problem with him. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Defensively, at least. But he can't be your emotional leader. He can't be the
No,
guy that drives you emotionally. He's too erratic. He's everywhere.
because
You know what I'm
somebody
saying?
got to reel him in.
Yeah,
Someone got to
exactly.
reel him in. Like someone said this about JaVale McGee as well. How it took him going to play with Golden State, who had a certain structure, and going to play with LeBron, who had a certain, for him to get out of the antics.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
go, it's like us. We're parents. We have kids. We seen other people with their kids. You can tell real quick by how that person as an adult acts
yeah,
and look
yeah.
at their kids and go, "Oh, that's why your kids are freaking crazy person." And our kids will have their own personalities, but as far as how they, what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
how they, so
yeah.
I feel like that's very accurate, and he didn't have respect for the stars
Nah, nah.
at
And
all.
Doc Rivers is a player's coach.
Yep.
He's gonna let these dudes be who they feel like being, and I don't know if that's really the way you could do a team like the Clippers. They're not a
No.
team you can let the Golden State was a team where you could let them be who they felt like being as personalities. Matter of fact, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that was a benefit to Kevin Durant. Like, I could be
Yeah.
myself here. Their
Yeah.
structure's a lot lighter. If you're good at your job, do your job well, and there's no argument. But
Yeah.
with the
I think
Clippers,
that's where
I think he could reel them in.
Ty Lue might come in handy
Maybe,
in that case. Um,
maybe.
but real quick, because you touched on the album thing, I'm gonna say this and then we can go. It's just for people to know. This dude right here, he probably doesn't remember, and I'm not gonna talk about this stinky the weed thing. We don't have to get into that. But I just need it to be important. This music thing for me is it's a weird journey, and I'm not gonna get to the beginning to the end of it, but in the space where I met this dude, um, I did my first solo show ever at an art gallery
Yep, I remember that.
for Urban Medium. Drove up from San Diego, had no idea what I was doing. I had been doing backups for a group called Movement for a
Mm-hmm.
while. Finally, it was said, look, you need to do, I have been recording some stuff. I'm like, all right. They were like, yo, we got you. You're going to open up. I'm going to open up. Okay.
Yeah,
In LA. Okay. Drive up here. My man, I won't say his name, he was supposed to back me up. Everything
yeah.
that happened could happen. As we're getting there, he tells me, hey, I'm not going to go on stage tonight. I'm going to just watch.
Word.
We rehearsed together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now I'm in LA doing my first show ever in front of this man right here, an excellent MC, DJ Revolution, the crew who I had been backing up, a group that Mayor Hawthorne was with prior
Yeah,
to him being Mayor Hawthorne,
yeah,
and
yeah.
one other group, and this elaborate urban medium Star Wars themed out thing.
It was dope.
And I'm opening, and I go on. There's no cordless mics at this time. Not if you was a regular cat like this, you didn't have access to those things. I go up there, and everything that could have happened wrong happened. Tripped on
Yeah.
the mic, forgot my words, it wasn't clear. Showed up in a all Adidas cream outfit from top to bottom. Had my dreads in the low. I was ready, and then it just boom. Walked around the rest of the night feeling like a complete horrible
I know the feeling.
performer, and got to hang out with this man, DJ Revolution, and all them cats later go down to Danny's or something, and we got some food. And I say this to say this. After that night, my only goal, not only, but one of my top goals in doing this to continue doing more music, because now it's just a hobby and I do it for fun. There's no, I turned down a couple things I could have done bigger years ago, but was to impress you. No bullshit. I was like, if this dude gives me the nod, I'm good. And it was always that. And I don't even know if you remember the first song you ever said, yo, that's dope, was the one I asked you to be on. I performed it first and you heard it.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I like that. And I was like, yo, you want to be on it? You did it. It didn't happen. Computer malfunctions, all kinds of weird stuff. But I say all of that to say, to hear you talk about my projects now and to put your cosign on it is humbling as hell. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because uh, as small as it may seem to you, to me, you and Odyssey. And you might not remember, y'all came to my house and was kicking it.
Yeah.
That
With Tim and
horrible
Blue.
show that we never happened, really didn't happen.
We can talk about that show next episode because that's actually a long conversation.
Oh my God. But all of that. And so to get your like nod of approval is very humbling. So I appreciate that.
Word up, of course, man.
Long-winded.
Yeah, we've been on the journey for a minute,
Yeah.
and yeah, what you're doing is excellent. It's excellent music, and it sounds like you're in a space musically where you're creating at your apex. Like not. I mean, you still, of course. I'm not saying that the only way it goes down type thing. I'm saying like you sound like you're in a good space creatively. Like, yo, I'm saying what I want to say, how I want
Yeah.
to say it,
Yeah.
in the manner I want to say it, and I'm not missing very many things in the rhyme. Like when I go back through records, some of my first records, I listen to the verses like, damn, I wanted to say something else. You know what I'm saying? Or say something more.
I do
But
the
as I
same.
got
Yeah.
into a good creative space, I'm like, nah, I said that, I meant that, end of
Right.
word. The word. Let's hop off, man.
But
Yo,
yeah, man.
thank you, dude. Yeah, we're gonna jump back on next week and we'll finish out the rest of the NBA because there are a couple teams at the bottom we're gonna skip over for real, skip over this time. And
Yeah.
yo, so next Wednesday, 6 p.m. is on, brother.
All right, sounds good, man.
All
Hey,
right.
Knicks fans, if you want to hear about the Knicks, you probably won't. So we're
Yeah,
still
yeah,
tuning in, man.
yeah. Tune in. I have some good Julius Randle takes. All right, y'all.
Yeah, all
Peace.
right. All right, peace.